It's the Steve Deace Show, and here's what happened while we were away. Yesterday, the Supreme Court decided that elections in the United States don't exist. Today, they decided the United States itself doesn't exist, overturning President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship, because that makes sense. At least the court decided that states can indeed ban dudes from competing against your daughters on women's sports teams.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
And that's what happened while we were away.
So we stand here on the brink of our 250th birthday. On the brink as a people. Let's discuss next. And greetings. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. Coming up later on the program, if your marriage is on the brink, we may have help for you on the way. We're going to talk to the couple behind the Alexander House. I had a chance to attend one of their fundraisers over the weekend, and it was they have a very powerful story, mirrors Amy and my own story as well. So how did they get back from the brink with their marriage? They're going to tell us and hopefully encourage any of you guys that are out there right now, or gals, that are in that position as we speak. Next hour, we're going to play Fake News or Not. We're going to look at all things that people are betting on in the betting markets on various issues and find out if these betting markets are fake news or not when Todd and Aaron have a chance to take a look at it. And a question was asked the other day online, and we're going to answer it in Pop Culture Tuesday. Why does the WNBA continue to allow the obvious abuse of Caitlyn Clark? Why do they allow it? And we're going to answer that question. But in many respects, it's going to kind of feel like it's a redundancy of what we're about to talk about. So all that and more coming your way today here on the Steve Deace Show. But let's begin with the news that Aaron broke there at the top. And let me make sure I reiterate this for everybody. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says that, yes, if you're born here, you are a citizen. But with this phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed as a packet, ratified essentially as a packet, in response to Reconstruction and any attempts by the South to subvert the results of the Civil War and continue on with the systemic racism that was a way of life in that part of the country during that time. The reason why this language was included in the 14th Amendment as it pertains to citizenship was to attempt to head off, and the Michigan Senator, I believe his name was Jacob Howard, who wrote this amendment, he even said this under testimony during the ratification debates in the United States Senate. Because he was being attacked, ironically enough, those that framed the 14th Amendment were being attacked by the South, by the segregationist South. They were being attacked that, well, this language could mean then that anybody who comes here under any circumstances, literally an invading army could just send over here a battalion of pregnant women and have them just drop all their kids a square foot across the border. And now we have, soldiers of enemy combatants now have to be recognized as citizens. These were actually the arguments that were made against the 14th Amendment at the time. And it was made very plain that the term subject to the jurisdiction thereof is to be taken very plainly. Meaning that, no, if you come here and you're not under the jurisdiction of the United States, you're not afforded any rights as an American, let alone conferred citizenship for you and your descendants. And this language was used to stop the South from saying, well, you know what? All these blacks aren't really from America. They're not really Americans. They're descendants of slaves from Africa. So they're not Americans, so we can continue to treat them however we want. Well, did the slaves jump on the ships, guys, and say, I volunteer myself as tribute? Did they do that?
No.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be what? Slaves! The term slave imbues a certain level of conscription, does it not? involuntary practice in most cases, correct?
Yes.
Or at the very least, an undesirable one where you are forced into no other outcome except to sell yourself as property of another person. No one grows up and says, when I get older, I want to be a slave. No one does this. So therefore, since the slaves did not run out into the open sea to board the ships themselves, by all means, take me half a planet away and treat me like I'm subhuman. That means they had to be brought here by someone had the jurisdiction to bring them here, correct?
Right.
Who had the jurisdiction to bring them here? The United States government did. So was slavery as a practice, was it permitted by the federal government of these United States for several decades?
Yes.
So therefore, when the slaves were brought here, whose jurisdiction were they brought here under?
United States.
The United States of America. That's what the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that's what it means. That's exactly what it means. And just to show you now how far gone as a people we are, can you be worse? Can you live in an era worse than, I know that's a person, I know it's a person, but I'm going to treat it as a subhuman entity nevertheless? Well, apparently the answer is yes, you can. And it would be the said era we are currently in. Okay? Because we have now, under the auspices of the United States Supreme Court, we have now taken the language that was used by the racists who didn't want the 14th Amendment ratified. We have now said that that language is the very basis for the 14th Amendment itself. We are now quite literally in the upside down. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. That is quite literally the era now in which we live. The same claims that were used to never have a 14th Amendment are now the claims being used by the Supreme Court to define it. And I can't make it any clearer to you than that. If you have come to this country illegally, you're not under the jurisdiction of this country. Otherwise, you wouldn't be what? Illegal. You're only here because you violated the law to come here. What the Supreme Court is basically saying now is an American could be literally anywhere. An American could be, I don't know, in Tehran as part of the ruling council of the Ayatollahs as we speak. Since it has conferred citizenship to your offspring, whether they're here under your jurisdiction or ours, or anybody's, for that matter, there's at least what, gentlemen, 8 billion people on this earth?
Right.
At any moment, any of these 8 billion people could be an American. In an instant. Other than making bombs, the other great things that Muslims are really good at is making babies. Maybe at this point, they'll just realize they don't have to make any bombs. I doubt that, though. They tend to like that. But at this point, they could realize we don't have to make any bombs. Just keep making babies. Drop them off across the Rio Grande. Drop them off across the Puget Sound. Drop them off in the UP of Michigan. Drop them off in Maine. Right? Anything on the Atlantic seaboard. Especially because we're going to use taxpayer dollars to indoctrinate them into an education that says Allah is God and Jesus is not. What's the point of blowing yourself up? We're going to blow ourselves up for you. I just summarized Clarence Thomas's dissent, by the way. Now, he said it way better than me, much smarter than me, but I just summarized it for you.
Yeah, he's not mailing it in either. He had an 81-page dissent.
He essentially is saying, you guys, he said exactly what I just said, just way better and smarter. You guys took language that was meant to stop racists from saying, my ancestors, my black ancestors were not Americans who were brought here against their will under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government. And you're now saying that that is turned on its head to mean anybody is an American at any point in time, anywhere in the world. All they have to do is be preggers. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just be preggers. And if your last name's Khomeini, your last name is Un, Jing, what have you, as long as you're preggers, you're an American. That's all it means. Which means being an American means nothing. It doesn't have any meaning. That's what it means. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing providential about it. There's no heritage there. There's nothing distinct about it. It means nothing. That's what it means. But here's where things get confusing. And I've shared with you guys a lot over the years some of the things I endured in my home. But I've also shared with you guys at times, I have some great memories of my childhood. Things were not always bad. I have a lot of great memories as a kid. But in some respects, that almost made it worse. Now that I'm older and I can look back on it, because it just meant that things were always uncertain, right? I mean, on a given day, when Dave's Ram Charger would come down Royal Oak Street in Wyoming, Michigan, and you could hear that engine from the end of the road. I didn't know. He could leave us alone. He could beat the snot out of us. He could say, hey, what do you guys think about Disneyland? You just never knew. All options were on the table, like every single day. And that uncertainty made it, here's what that uncertainty made it. It weakens your resolve to do what must be done, is what it does. And it's, my mom and I, me as the oldest, my mom and I we'd argue with each other. We'd take turns arguing against the other person. The other person would get the resolve that we can't do this anymore. There's got to be a life better than this. And then the other person's resolve would weaken. Because Dave would offer the transactional thing that would make us think that, maybe it's not all bad. And then you start thinking to yourself, well, who else would take us anyway? Who else would want us? We have nowhere else to go. Tracking with me so far?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because the same day the Supreme Court said, you don't have a country, it declared pretty emphatically, there is a such thing as a woman. The Supreme Court, all these exact same justices, mind you, we just celebrated the 4th anniversary of the Supreme Court also saying that is a baby, right?
Yeah.
There have been some momentous wins by this court. This court has struck a mighty blow against the administrative state through Chevron. It has, just yesterday, struck another mighty blow against the swamp by saying, yes, the commander-in-chief is able to hire and fire as he sees fit. He doesn't owe you an explanation. Explanations are what elections are for. That's where you get your explanation. You get your explanation from the guy you elected at during the campaign, and if you don't like that explanation, you get to vote for somebody else. But while they're in office, they get to actually execute the power that is vested in them by the people. These are not trite decisions, fair?
Oh, very.
These are not things that are just to be, it's a roll of the eyes. And in many cases, we're not, in the past, when we'd often win, it would be on like a technicality. And I think of like the Hobby Lobby case, remember that? And where, he's not on the court anymore. The justice who was the deciding vote in Windsor, the Republican appointee.
Kennedy?
Kennedy. Yes, thank you. And if you go back and read Kennedy's opinion in the Hobby Lobby case, he says, well, listen, as long as you can prove that you're not forcing people to bow down to the chocolate bunny or the rainbow bunny, as long as you're not forcing them, that you can make the case that you're not doing, I think he called it, wasn't it religious animus? I believe that's what he called it, correct? If you go back and read Kennedy's opinion, he says, as long as you're not doing this under religious animus, by all means, impugn on people's consciences away. See, we won that, but basically on a technicality, which is why poor Jack out there, apparently the only cake baker in all of Denver, Colorado, how many more times has he had to go to federal court since winning at the Supreme Court? 2, 3 more times, right? Because he won on a technicality. And that's how we used to win most of the time. We are winning several cases now substantively. And so, see, this is what makes it confusing and hard. Because there's going to be some, and let me just talk about my own audience. I'm not here to I'm not a MAGA judge. I'm not here to speak for the entirety of the conservative movement. So when I use terms like this person's good or this person's bad, I mean that in terms of my own framework of the causes and things that I believe in. I'm not elevating myself as soothsayer for like wings or entirities of movements. I'm just speaking from my own perspective on things, and then what I think I know our audience pretty well. What I think you guys probably think. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So some of you are going to say, in fact, let me do it this way. I just saw this. Let me find this post really quick from our good friend Brianna Morello. Let me find it. She just posted this, so let me find it. Okay. We're not getting voter ID. Your country gets to be invaded by people that hate you. You're not getting mass deportations. We're at war with Iran. And mail-in ballots for federal elections can be counted weeks after Election Day. Vote for Republicans this November so we can keep the momentum going. Is that sarcasm warranted?
Yes.
Yes. We could quibble with her description that we're not getting mass deportations because it's so. Are we getting the level of deportations we had hoped for, that we voted for?
No.
But we are getting a form of mass deportations. They're especially in light of what we've seen in the past. That is happening. It may not be happening, but we're quibbling here, right? We're quibbling about interpretations of terms. Fundamentally, is what Brianna just posted there that I read to you. Is that fundamentally incorrect? Is her sarcasm unwarranted?
No.
Fundamentally? No. Plenty of justification for that, correct?
Yes.
On the other hand, we would have lost about 4, 5, 6, 7 more serious fronts of battle, like the gender battle today, for example, probably, if we had not won this last election or the election that Trump won in 2016 in order to nominate these judges, right?
Right.
We certainly would not have overturned Roe versus Wade, correct?
Right.
All right. So that's also true, right?
Yes.
That we have at least done something to significantly, and we can all, and I'm using terms that can have a variance of definition to them, right?
Like
some forms. I see what you did there. I like that. That'll preach right there. So significant to one person may not be significant enough to somebody else. You see what I'm trying to say? So I'm trying to speak as broadly as I can because I'm trying to interpret this as broadly as I can. There is also real evidence that says the votes that were made in 2016 that should have counted in 2020 and did get counted in 2024 have made a significant difference. There's also evidence for that too, right?
Yes.
And so let me tell you what ends up happening, because it happened in my own home. I just told you what happens. My mom and I would switch places. My mom would get the resolve to either leave or confront Dave or call the police, and I'd talk her out of it. And then I'd get the resolve to do something, and then so we're just going to turn on each other. In many respects, this court in many cases over the last couple of years has gotten almost all of the major issues right, except the couple that were going to be the hardest and most impactful if they got wrong. Like yesterday on what's an election and today on what's a border, right? Because here's the thing. While the decision they had today on trannies was spot on, if I'm just allowed to keep counting votes for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and I can just smuggle over tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to instantly replace, or in the case of the Biden era, millions, to just instantly replace all your votes. See what I'm saying here? Then even these righteous decisions now are borrowed time. Just borrow time. Before the other side is just allowed to cheat at a rate. Cheat your values, cheat your election process, cheat at a rate that just makes it unsustainable. And they can just therefore, because they won't have the reservations that we do, they'll just checkmate you and take and refuse to act or enforce what you thought were wins. And so we're in this position right now where we're kind of stuck. Is it true that this isn't going to be good enough?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it true, though, that we cannot afford to lose 1 inch of ground further?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you do when both those things are true? Let me be real honest with you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. And that's why I don't jump online and yell at friends of mine who say the things that Brianna just posted a little while ago. It's why I don't jump online and say amen to people I know and friends I have that agree with me. We have to stay in this fight to the last possible moment. I don't know. Without question, we have gotten some significant wins that have mattered and made your vote pay off in ways voting for other Republicans was never going to do, even if they won, or didn't do if they won. I think that's fair, too, to say about the Trump era.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same token, it feels like we're behind. We're so far behind that we're winning a lot of fights on the way to catching up, but we can't win the ones that would help us to actually catch up. Does that make sense, too?
Yeah.
Like we're not as far behind as we were, but we're still behind. If we're to undo elections and then we're going to undo citizenship and borders, in many respects, that's like undoing elections, then our ability to close this gap, the gap that is our own fault. It's not the Republican Party's fault. I mean, it is, but that's a little bit like being a smoker and blaming the cigarettes for your lung cancer. No one is unaware in the modern era what cigarettes may cause, correct? So if you're going to smoke them, then you took that responsibility onto yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, this isn't 1956, and you're like, whoa, what do you mean these things cause cancer? It's 2026. We know, right? So, you shouldn't. Are we shocked that they have these things called primaries every election cycle when we get to pick better people? Is this a news flash? This is not known that this occurs? Because I can promise you it's known, because the amount of attention the presidential one gets every 4 years is astronomical, right?
Yeah.
Which means people know these things are going on in the in-between years too, right?
Yeah.
And so what did we do for the last generation when these things were going on?
Other stuff.
Yeah, not a damn thing is the answer. Not a damn thing. Really nothing. We didn't do anything. So we have to own this. We're the cigarette in this case. The people are. And if you look at what this court has done, I thought about this during my lift this morning. It is in many respects our founders were so smart. Government by the consent of the governed. Calvin saying you get the government that you deserve. If I did this exact same conversation and never mentioned the Supreme Court or any of these opinions, but I just talked about what the last generation of the Republican Party has essentially been like, would it not project and apply legislatively too?
Of course.
Yeah. This court, in many respects, is a perfect representation of the modern Republican Party. It really, truly is. You've got Gorsuch, the libertarian, who's 100% right 80% of the time. You've got your hardcores. They were Reaganites before. They're MAGAites now. That's your Alito and your Thomases. And then you have three Bushy institutionalists, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and John Roberts. Now, to varying degrees, like Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh defied John Roberts on overturning Roe, right?
Yes.
But for the most part, those three have voted in most cases on the decisive things as a block, right? Most of the time, yeah. And then you have three justices on the left who cannot be moved on anything of existential import. Because even though Elena Kagan is about 10 times smarter than Ketanji Brown Jackson, they both believe in the same doctrines of demons, so they vote the same, right?
Yes.
Elena Kagan not only seems smarter than Ketanji Jackson, seems like maybe even just an overall better person, frankly. Like someone you'd much more enjoy having a conversation with, right? But in the end, she's going to vote the same way as the DEI candidate, right? Yeah, because they're unified in their doctrines. And we have this like festival of beliefs, this cornucopia of worldviews, which means we can't ever fully mobilize all the strength that we have. We can't fully unify to catch up. And so the gap is not what it was, but the gap is still too large. We're still too far behind. My friend Andrew Colvett, I thought had a perfect comparison that this was Roe v. Wade for immigration. He's exactly right. But here's the problem if he's right. Well, Steve, we won that battle. How long did it take to win that battle?
50 years.
Do we have 50 years to win this one?
Nope.
You might not have 15. Thank the maker if you've got 15 years to win this. Because we were not, during all those years we were fighting over Roe, we were also in most of those years not fighting over what's a border, what's a criminal, what's a woman, what's a marriage. We weren't fighting over many of those things for the most of the years we were fighting over. That's what made Roe such an existential fight. It was the one true existential difference between the two parties, and many other things were often variations of themes, right? That's why it was such the flashpoint for most of you and I's time growing up.
Yes.
How many of those flashpoints do we have now, though?
Legion.
Yeah, they're legion. They're everywhere. So if Andrew's right that this is the Roe v. Wade for immigration, and I think that he is, we don't have 40 years to win that. We don't. We'll be lucky if we've got 14. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Well, you summed up everything in one line there for me. You said when it comes to being what it means to be American, it's meaningless. Yeah, and because it's been that way for a long time, a very long time, that's how we got to this place. Steve didn't mention it once, but he's mentioned it many times before. As good as his summation of everything was, it didn't include these words, and it's why it's all null and void. We're not a nation of laws, and we never have been. We're a nation of political will, and we always will be. And because we have no political will, being American is now meaningless. We did it to ourselves. Go team.
Does perfect always mean good? No. Doesn't always mean a good outcome. I think this ruling is perfect because of everything that Todd and you just said. Again, was it John Calvin when God wants to punish a nation, he gives them wicked rulers?
Yes.
It's perfect in the United States system of government because who really chooses our leaders? Us, the person in the mirror. The thing that I'm thinking about when you're talking about, hey, we got a good ruling on the trans issue, getting the dudes out of women's sports teams, off of your daughter's sports teams, that is good. But at the same time, you can just keep counting ballots until well after Election Day. There is no such thing as Election Day. We accidentally deleted that. And then the following day, there is no such thing really as the United States of America. You don't really have a country if you can't even enforce and say who gets to come in and who's a citizen and who really isn't. Whoops, we accidentally hit delete again. That is incongruent thinking. It's an incongruent worldview. And it's a perfect, and there's that word again, perfect encapsulation of the average, really the median American. Mm-hmm. Really the median male in America. We might go to church on Sunday. We might say that Christ rules over all. But at the end of the day, the incongruency hits when those words are not backed up with action. So it's a perfect ruling. It's a perfect ruling for our country. Sucks, but it's perfect.
What is the path forward? I honestly don't know. I really don't. I don't have to know. I'm not God. I don't have to know everything. I don't know. I'm just going to try to do as much good as I can do with what God has given me for as long as I have to do it. That's all that I know how to do. And we're not always going to agree on exactly what that is, but ultimately I'm accountable to God for that decision and for this platform, and that's to whom I'll answer. That's all I know how to do. I don't have any other larger answers for you.
The Steve Deace Show.
For 16 years now, Freedom Project Academy has delivered a fully accredited classical online education that's firmly rooted in Judeo-Christian values from pre-kindergarten all the way through high school. And I can't give him a better endorsement than I let him teach my own son for 2 of those 16 years as well. So they can make it fully customizable to you and your family situation. If you want to go live with real teachers in a virtual classroom environment with fellow students, you can do that. If you want anytime courses available 24/7, you can do that. If you're homeschoolers and you want to put your child in the driver's seat, they can do that. All right. And these are just some of the reasons why Education Insider named Freedom Project Academy its 2026 Christian School of the Year. All right. So you save 10% on your tuition with my name, Steve, as your code when you go to Freedom for School, the preposition, not the number, freedomforschool.com. Go there for free, by the way, and take a look at what they have to offer. And then if you decide this is right for our family, use my code Steve for 10% off with the code Steve at freedomforschool.com. Again, code Steve at freedomforschool.com. Well, I had a chance to hear an absolutely amazing testimony that is the origin of a ministry that was being honored at the event that Amy and I were at out of town over the weekend. And as we were sitting there listening to the story of this couple, we just looked at each other. And it was very similar to the situation we found our own marriage in 6 years ago. And so by all means, we want to share that story with you and then encourage you if your marriage is on the brink right now and you think there's no way that God can bring it back. Amy and I would beg to differ. And so would Greg and Julie Alexander, who join us now here on the program. It's good to see both of you here on The Blaze. How are you?
Hey, doing great, Steve. How are you?
Doing good.
Very, very well. So you guys are the masterminds, or maybe the repaired broken hearts behind Alexander House, right? We'll get into what you guys do, but I want to start with just you guys' story and why that should give confidence to anyone right now within the sound of our voices that God can still bring your marriage back from the brink, no matter how close to that brink that you fear it is.
Okay. Well, yes, Stephen, and thanks again. 27 years ago, after 10 years of marriage, Julie and I had reached a point where we felt we could not continue our marriage. And I characterize it now by saying that we just simply began to buy into the lies and the ways of the world, if you will, being reliant upon those materialistic things in our lives to be our source of happiness. And given the fact that that's not where happiness was to be found, we started looking for that happiness in other people. And needless to say, when those secrets were discovered, we just simply concluded that if we were having to resort to this kind of behavior in our marriage, then there couldn't be much of a marriage left. And I don't even know if it's what I wanted, Steve, but I went to Julie and I said, I think we need to get a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And without hesitating, she immediately agreed and said something to the fact that that's how we're living our lives anyway. You know, we have a house in common, we have kids in common, but we are spiritually divorced. And even at that point, we're living in Austin, Texas, but Julie had accepted a job in San Antonio, Texas. And she got tired of the back and forth commute. So she started living in San Antonio and coming back home to visit with me and the kids on the weekend. And I think that distance and time away gave us both that comfort and security, if you will, that we can go do other things, if you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and not have to worry about being found out.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, whatever done in the dark will always come to the light. And as it did, it was that decision I asked Julie again for a divorce.
Yeah, the devastation, Steve, remembering that we were living our lives that way and so separate and thinking that it's all in secret and thinking that, oh, as long as nobody knows, but as you said, still going to church on Sundays because it's what you did. We didn't understand anything about relationship with God, about how he should be a part. So we just did what we did, go to church, and then we lived our lives however we wanted to live them during the week. So living a total pagan life, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so as Greg said, I remember coming home. He opened the door and said, I'm tired. I said, I am too. I can't wait to go to bed in my own home. And he said, no, I'm emotionally tired. I'm done. I think we need to get a divorce. I agreed. But then the panic came over me and thinking, oh my goodness, I'd be the only one for 4 generations to even mention the word divorce. And I remember going up the stairs with this heaviness on my heart, making a 911 call to our priest and said, we need to come see you. We're in trouble. We go see him the next day. He unfortunately we wanted this marriage to work, and we told him everything that there was to say. And we said, are you kidding me? No, we don't want this marriage to work. He said, I do not know what to do for you, but here's a card to a Christian counselor. Made the appointment with this counselor to go and divulge to him everything that we were going through, hoping that maybe there could be some answers or maybe a little bit of light could be shown on what we could do. But he began to share with us that, maybe sometimes you have to realize that maybe you really weren't meant to be together. Oh, that'll be $100, and there we go. So devastation to the nth degree. But the unfortunate part, we went home, called our 2 kids into the room at the time. We had 7 and 9 years old and told them mom and dads aren't meant to be together sometimes. We're going to get a divorce. And regardless of the fact they were huddled in the corner crying, holding each other because we were so cold-hearted, we dismissed it. We'll just send them to counseling. That's what Bob and Sue down the street did. Their kids are okay. But that's where we got to the point of total devastation and called it quits. But God had a different plan. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. So continue to go to church every Sunday. We had a visiting pastor who filled in for our pastor for the whole summer. And his homily, his sermons just literally set our hearts on fire, Steve. I mean, we couldn't get enough. And so we started meeting with him in between the 2 services to further get to know who this guy was. And we found out he was the tribunal vicar for our diocese. Now, we didn't know anything else about our faith at that point, but we at least knew this is that guy that does that annulment thing. So maybe God is blessing us with this man to be our friend, because surely he's going to show us how we can get divorced, get annulled, and go our separate ways and start all over.
Yep.
And so naturally made an appointment to visit with him. He in turn think we were coming by for a social visit as we're starting this new friendship. But we get there, and for 45 minutes, just laying it on him, all the things we were experiencing in our marriage, the lying, the cheating, the infidelities, everything, we just kind of plopped on his desk. And he sat there and listened, didn't utter a word. But as we were finished, he leaned forward and said, look, guys, I understand your plight and your situation. What is God's plan for marriage? What does our church teach about marriage? And I mean, of course, we had no response. We had the old deer in the headlight looks like, what are you talking about? And what does this have to do with us? We go to church every Sunday. We used to be in love. Now we're not. And we were hoping you can show us how to get out of the state. He said, oh, well, I suggest is that you go back and find the answers to the questions that I've asked, which led me going back and opening scripture one of the first times in my life, and starting with Ephesians. I always hear that this wife be submissive to your husband's deal. So I thought, well, let me go there. And sure enough, I thought that was the problem.
Yep.
It said I married a woman who wanted nothing to do with anything that I was asking of her and from her in this marriage. And so continue to read and finding that Christ loved that we should be loving each other, husband loving the wife like Christ loved the church. And that was the first time that I thought, wow, Christ died for the church. Am I dying to myself for the things she was wanting and desiring in a marriage? And Steve, unfortunately, the answer was no. But for the first time, I really started thinking about my own selfishness and what I was bringing to the relationship and what I was desiring, with no care and concern about her wants and desires. And so there, I started to think maybe my selfishness was sabotaging the relationship. And but just taking notes, didn't go to work or anything for 2 days, and called Julie into the room the second evening. I said, hey, sweetheart, I want to share with you what God's plan for marriage is. And all honesty, I looked at it and said, no wonder we're screwing it up. We're not living a marriage like this. Look at this stuff. And so I'm just overviewing with her this whole understanding of dying to self for the sake of the beloved, and all these things, so edifying each other out of reverence for Christ. And it's like, this is all pouring to us. But I was looking at her and she was like, wow, this is incredible. What do we do? And instinctively I said, I don't know, maybe we need to pray or something, because we had never prayed together as a couple. This 10 years of being married, 2 kids, beautiful jobs, and all the stuff in life. Not one time have we humbled ourselves to even go to our Father to say thank you. But I took Julie by the hand. I said, look, Father, we tried living marriage based upon the things we think we should do, and it doesn't work. And we've also tried living by the ways of the world, and that too doesn't work. And we sincerely invite you into our lives to show us how you want us to live marriage. And if you deliver us from this evil, we will commit the rest of our lives working in some kind of marriage or family ministry. And so the next week we quit our jobs, and here we are 26 years later, Steve, still championing across the world, literally, the beauty, goodness, and truth of God's plan for marriage. And more importantly, helping those who find themselves in those crisis situations to be able to come back, not only to each other, but come back to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as well.
That story is so much like our own. I mean, it is so much like our own, and that level of conviction. And you guys have been doing the Alexander House now, trying to help marriages for how many years now? Julie, have you guys been doing this?
26 years.
26 years,
Yeah.
right? And so I want to make sure we're not saying that there's a trite formula that will fix every single marriage out there. Neither one of us are saying that, okay? But I think what we're both saying based on our own life experiences are that if you haven't tried letting the Word of God convict the two of you on what it really means to be a husband and a wife, try that. Not saying it's 100% or that will the next day everybody's glowing and that's the end of the story, right? But your odds of being successful are a lot lower though if you haven't tried it. And that's that's the commonality of the two stories between our family and yours, and why I just felt such a heart for what you guys were talking about at that event over the weekend, because it's our story. We did the same thing. We did the same thing. One of us had to initiate. In this case, I was too cowardly to initiate, even though I'm Mr. Theologian. All right, because I feel paralyzed because I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know that it is. I know, unlike in your case, I know that it's wrong. I know. I'm the one that goes all over the country speaking about don't do this. It's wrong. Okay, so I know it is wrong, right? I know that it is, and yet I feel like I can't get my head above water to stop doing it at the same time, right? And so just like just like you were the one in this case that said, hey, this is the one, or, we can't, do we really want this? In my case, it was my wife who was the one that woke me up in the middle of the night and said, do you really want this? Are we really doing what God wants us to do? And that just was the breakthrough that helped us to repair things from that time forward. So what is it that you guys now do through Alexander House to try to help marriages that are in the same crisis that you guys were many years ago?
Yeah, if I can state first, Steve, we hear that every time we go somewhere, every time we do a workshop or talk, so many couples come up to and say, did you have a camera in our house? That's our same story. And it's so amazing, but I also want to go back and hone in on what you said. When your wife woke up and said, do you really want to do this? Humanly, we can all say, heck no, I don't want to do this. But when she said, this is not God's plan, that is the difference. Thanks be to God she said that, because that's what Greg did when he called me into the room, said, I think we need to pray. My heart melted, literally the hardness of heart that I had for so many years, and all the stuff that we did, the shame, the guilt, all that stuff melted away when he prayed the prayer he prayed. And like you said, it's not easy still to this day. We come here, we're on the show. We're not perfect. But God has a plan, and doing it his way is the only way we could be where we're at today.
Amen.
So you can explain it else.
So yeah, of course, Steve, taking, all that we had experienced, not only from the difficulties, but the redemption of our marriage through God, through Christ, we felt called to start sharing that with other couples as well. Because as we began to talk to our friends and fellow church friends, if you will, they were just as ignorant as we were. We started asking the same questions. Pastor asked us, you know anything about God's plan for marriage? Are your children witnessing the very love of God in your family? And they too were like, oh, what are you talking about? So we started doing these talks at our church, just kind of introducing God's plan for marriage. And a director of religious education from another church heard about the talks, called Julie and asked if we had talks, and had a workshop. I'm sorry, if we had a workshop, and we didn't, but Julie lied and said we did, committed us to a date. And that forced me to systematically go back and say, what did we do to get our marriage back on track? But starting to present the talks were going great. Workshops were doing all over the nation. And then couples were coming up saying, wow, we learned a lot here. This is great. But do you work with couples individually? And so I lied, said I did. We did. And we started now what we call a Marriage Disciples program. And so for the last 25 years, Steve, we've just been, again, opening our doors to couples who are experiencing crisis situations in their marriage, and helping them come back, first of all, to have a sense of hope, which is a lot of what that testimony does in many instances, is give people a chance of knowing that, wow, if they can get through this, maybe we have a chance. And then we literally take them by the hand and walk them through the process until they're able to reunite and come back together.
And what's been beautiful is there's a 98% success rate. And why is because it is God's plan. So we teach them God's plan but mostly how to practically live that out. And Steve, where we met you, the gala that we had in Dallas was so critical to raise the funds, because we don't charge for what we do. We don't charge couples to come through the process. We have 28 other couples trained across the nation. We need to grow because the issue and the problems in marriage are critical. We went on to live God's plan even more, and all the things that he's blessed us with. Our ministry, it continues to grow. People are getting the help that they need, the hope that they're desiring, but nobody else is giving them the hope that we're saying every marriage has a chance to be redeemed if you put God in the center.
Well, folks, I want you to know, spending some time around these two, I think the word the kids use today is aura, right? There is an aura. There is a contentment. There's a joy. There's a glow around those two that you hope when you get to the ages that the three of us are, and you've been married for as long as the three of us are, that is what this looks like when you're truly doing life together with your soulmate, with your person. And I've seen it in purpose with these two, or in person with these two. They have it. So how can we help people? We got about a minute and a half left. Where would you like our audience to go to get more information on what you guys do and maybe get the help that they need?
They can go to our main website, which is thealexanderhouse.org. That's THE alexanderhouse.org. And from there, they can find the Marriage Disciples website. But usually a lot of times people want to know, well, who am I dealing with? So we send them to our website first to get some information about us. And then the Marriage Disciples site directly is marriagedisciples.org.
All right.
So have a beautiful.
So marriagedisciples.org and thealexanderhouse.org as well. Those are the two websites, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Absolutely.
God bless you guys. I'm sure we'll do this again in the future. All right. It was a pleasure to get to know the two of you, and great and well done. Good and faithful servants on the work that you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. That means a lot.
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
And it was beautiful meeting you and your wife, and we pray for you in all marriages. So God bless you.
Thank you. Same to you. All right, guys, what do you think?
The line that sticks out to me, and this has everything to do with Steve's intro. We are living pagan lives. We're living pagan lives in our marriage as citizens. We're living pagan lives in our marriage with our spouses. We aren't serious. Smash the idols, all of them.
I think that segment was a beautiful antidote, a beautiful follow-up to what we first began with.
Yep.
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that starts, we're not going to overturn all of the evils, all of the ills in our world, just like the end of a great Hollywood blockbuster. It starts with making sure you take care of what you can take care of. One of those things, fortifying your marriage.
Amen. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast, alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Take advantage of that by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can subscribe to our Rumble channel at Steve Deace on Rumble. That's at Steve Deace on Rumble. And then also make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you listen to that by hitting the subscribe or follow button if you're on Apple. Thank you guys very much. Yesterday's episode, by the way, was top 10 in our category on all of Apple. So thank you guys very much for that. That was pretty cool to see. And then make sure also to leave us a 5-star review if you haven't already on the podcast platform that you prefer to. And then make sure if you are wanting to upgrade your landscaping, there's some neighbors of ours, man, that just, wow. On one hand, I'm like, that looks like a lot of work. And then on the other hand, I'm like, your yard is beautiful. I mean, they have really upgraded with bright colors and lots of flowers. So if that's you, right, or you'd like that to be you, okay? So I don't know where to begin, though. Start here with our friends over at Fast Growing Trees. There's a reason why, actually there's 3, why they've got over 2 million happy customers. Number 1, they've got the largest online nursery in America, right? So whether you're looking for stuff outdoors, like I just mentioned, my neighbors just did some really pretty landscaping of their yard. Maybe you're redecorating indoors and you're looking for stuff there. So whether it's outdoors or indoors, whatever the climate, whatever the environment, they've probably got anyway, what you're looking for with that large of a selection. And then here's the second reason why they've got 2 million plus happy customers. It's their Alive and Thrive guarantee, promising that your plants are going to arrive right there on your front door, happy and healthy, not all broken up, not dead, right? And then number 3, it doesn't matter if you have a green thumb, because they're trained plant experts. They're going to walk you through from the selection process and then how to care for those plants that you get from them, whether that's privacy trees, shrubs, fruit plants, house plants. They're going to help you know how to treat those every step of the way. All right, so they've got such great deals this time of year already, including half off on a selected number of items. But if you've never gone to Fast Growing Trees before, get an additional 20% off for being a first-timer as a thank you to them for joining up at fastgrowingtrees.com by using the code DACE. That's fastgrowingtrees.com. Use the code DACE at fastgrowingtrees.com. Code DACE for the first-timer, 20% off. Well, I mentioned to you guys yesterday, this is the second time now that the New York Times has not given me a spot on its bestseller list that my sales had earned. The first time, they didn't even offer an excuse. They just acted as if Rise of the Fourth Reich by Daniel Horowitz and myself just did not exist. Even though the week it came out, it was the number 8 best-selling hardcover nonfiction book in the entire country. And they gave our slot instead at number 8 to Greta Thunberg, who we sold more than 140% more books than. Not that I'm bitter, but I will always remember this. I guess, guys, we're making some progress. Now they're giving us excuses now. They just ignored us before. Now their excuse was, well, you sold too many books over at Amazon. Well, over 80% of all books are sold at Amazon every day. Okay. That's why there's a lot less bookstores than there used to be in the country. It doesn't matter, though. I know that you know, and you know that I know, that you guys have made this book a smashing success. Thank you guys very much as we head in now to week 6 of being the best. I don't know how long you get to be a new release at Amazon. So I told my wife on our walk last night, the New York Times scammed me, but I might be getting scammed into my favor by Amazon. Can you be a new release? Can you get a dude code ruling on this? Can you be a new release for 6 weeks? Can you do that? Because I kind of think you can't.
Well, I mean, movies are in theaters for 6 weeks, and they're still considered new.
Are they? Okay.
It seems...
Look at that rare display of grace and mercy by Aaron McIntyre. You're growing up. I really appreciate you.
Oh, I mean, I've had some thoughts about how this has gone, the release of this book, that I'm not going to say until after Independence Day.
There it is.
I'm not going to say anything until after Independence Day, and kind of our marketing push is done.
That's my guy. Todd, can I get a ruling on that? Can you be a new release for 6 weeks? Amazon apparently says you can. I kind of think you can't, but what do you think?
Man, there's already Christmas decorations out at stores, so
Are there really? Which stores? And in fact, just text that to me if you don't mind.
My point being, you don't have standards anyway. So
that's true. Very true. So you know what? I'll take it. If Amazon wants to say we're the best-selling new release Christian book or children's Christian book for 6 weeks in a row, okay. I kind of think new release is new, but all right, cool. You guys have made it great. Here's a preview if you don't have your copy yet.
Every 4th of July, we light up the sky, we wave our flags, we celebrate. But if your kids asked you why, could you tell them the real story? It's a story that starts 3,000 years before 1776. A story most people have never heard told this way. A miracle in the desert, a miracle on Christmas night, commandments carved in stone, a constitution written on paper. What's the connection? This 4th of July, give your family the story they've never been told, the one that explains everything.
Indeed, the 250th birthday of America is an event 3,000 years in the making. I walked through all of that history for your kids and your grandkids, but also for all of you to learn what they took away from us in the last generation of American indoctrination as well, and to come away inspired to know this is the heritage, regardless of what the Supreme Court says, it is meaningful to be an American. It is a heritage that comes with a responsibility and one that we have a charge to keep and to pass on to the next generation. And it's the greatest country that God's ever permitted since Genesis chapter 3 to grace the face of this earth. So if you want to get your copy today, there are still a couple thousand copies left at Amazon. I just checked as the video was playing. It will deliver by July 4th, according to Amazon, so you'll have it in for the holiday as well. Why Independence Day? America is great because God is good. And please, if you have your copy and you love it, please keep leaving those 5-star reviews for the book at Amazon as well. And that brings us now, I think, to number 7, Todd Erzen, our countdown in the providential moments that made America.
Well, and once again, providentially, this pretty much sums up everything we've talked about, because under no circumstances could this country have been created, let alone defended, if our founding fathers were living pagan lives. Virtually all the signers of the Declaration and Constitution were church-going men. Several were ministers or chaplains. Others had trained to become ministers, and still others were conspicuously learned in religion. Of the 56 signers of the Declaration, 34 were Anglican, 13 Congregationalists, 6 Presbyterian, and 1 each Baptist, Catholic, and Quaker. The proportions regarding the Constitution were nearly the same. A man who had roomed with Alexander Hamilton, and now we know what most people know about Alexander Hamilton is about a musical. Do they know this, though? Wrote of having admired the latter's habit of dropping to his knees to pray before retiring, and the seriousness of his religious reading and his replies to objections to his faith. The son of Jonathan Edwards, also a distinguished clergyman, wrote of Roger Sherman of Connecticut, who was an active participant in 2 congregations, that, quote, he could, with reputation to himself and improvement to others, converse on the most important subjects of theology. I confess myself to have been often entertained, and in the general course of my long and intimate acquaintance with him, to have been much improved by his observations on the principal subjects of doctrinal and practical divinity. And then Governor Morris of Pennsylvania, who spoke more frequently, 173 times, than anyone else at the Constitutional Convention, especially on the subject of the untrustworthiness of human reason and morals, voiced the most common sentiment of all the founders when he wrote in his notes on the form of a constitution for France, quote, religion is the only solid basis of good morals. Therefore, education should teach the precepts of religion and the duties of man toward God. But each one has a right to entire liberty as to religious opinions, for religion is the relation between God and man. Therefore, it is not within the reach of human authority. Morse's 2 almost universally shared principles, that religious liberty is equally a natural right of every man, given the sacredness of the creature's duties to his Creator, and that neither human nature alone nor reason alone is a dependable support for moral life in a republic, are the distinctive marks of the American mind in the founding period. And I just think that has everything to do with what we just talked on, a specific conversation about marriage. They were living pagan lives. They were not living anything remote. And they were regular church-going people, but they were not regularly living according to the clear guidelines by God. And that's because there's just too many idols in their lives that are their true gods.
I'm not even going to add to that. I'll let it stand on its own. Well done, Todd. Thank you. You want to get your copy today? Why Independence Day? America is great because God is good, which is the conclusion to my trilogy on America's Christian heritage for children. You can get it today at Amazon. They are still giving delivery, as last I looked just a couple of minutes ago, before the holiday. So if you want to have yours, you got family coming in, you want to have it for the kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, you can get it in today with the couple thousand copies we have left at Amazon.com. Why Independence Day? America is great because God is good. And thank you guys so much for making this book successful and for all of your great comments. And I love when you guys send pictures with the kiddos loving the book. That's catnip for me. So thank you guys very much for all of that. And don't forget to leave your 5-star review at Amazon if you got your book and you really enjoyed it. All right, you guys ready to play some fake news or not?
Whew. Are the people more interested in the betting markets than people are interested in the actual issues that they're betting on?
Well, so here's why I decided to go with the betting markets this week. One, we had never done anything before with those. 2, they're making more news nowadays than ever before. And 3, there's a thought out there. We'll see. But there's an emerging thought out there that the betting markets might be more accurate than the polls. And the theorem behind that, of course, or maybe we should downgrade it to a hypothesis for now. Somewhere, one of those two terms applies. That the truth of what people really think is where they put their money.
There's just too much money.
Okay, so that, in a way, you would tend to agree with it by saying stuff like that. And it's kind of hard to rig the betting markets. Like you can tank polls, you can feed polls, you can push polls, right? Okay, you just make them up whole cloth. Like, it appears was done in Iowa before the 2024 election, right? That betting markets ultimately, your money is the thing in which will catch the conscience of the king, kind of a thing, right? Where your heart, your treasure is, your heart will be also, basically, right? So not saying we'll ever do this again because we haven't done it before. And for those reasons, I thought let's do it this way this time. Fair?
Let's give it a shot.
All right, let's start with the midterm results. Put those up there, Aaron. So the betting markets are saying right now, 43% chance the Democrats are going to sweep the midterms, meaning winning both the House and the Senate. A 43% chance that they will do that. Do you guys think that's fake news or not?
I'd say that's fake news. Sweeping is the operative term here. I think, ask me on any given day, depending on my mood, but my gut tells me this is what we're going off of, kind of our gut, what we're seeing around us. Probably like a 5 to 7% chance higher that they sweep the midterm. So whether or not that's accurate, I don't know what your margin for error is, but I'm still kind of thinking it's 50-50.
What do you think?
Which is better than I think it was maybe earlier this year before some of the developments that we've seen.
And just to reiterate, your answer is the operative word being the sweep, winning them both.
Well, that number is terrifying, so it's not fake news.
What an answer that is. So your rationale is just that it's terrifying, so therefore you're convinced it must be somewhat for
usually
real.
Give us a lot of leeway on how we answer these questions.
I do. I let you guys interpret it the way you want because that I think that's every bit as informative as what your actual answer is.
The fact that it isn't 5%, anything above 5%, terrifying.
What is, as a quick follow-up question, the Democrats now having openly communist candidates win office in New York. How does the economic performance to radicalization of Democrats ratio, how does that change, right? Like the president said yesterday, Mamdani wants to be the face of the Democratic Party. I'm happy to make him so, and be the, my generation's been fighting a generational war against communism, the president has said in the last few days. And I'm happy to make this a referendum on that.
For them to be the face of that, people have to know who those faces are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know anything.
So your position is they just know their own personal situation.
Yes.
And not the stakes of what the real alternatives are. They're essentially willfully ignorant is what you're saying. Or malignantly ignorant might be a better way of putting it. Malignantly so.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think, Aaron, on that follow-up?
Can you restate that again just to make sure
I'm trying to make it, see if I can make it simpler. If the Democrats are just going to be openly communist, does that lower the margin of economic rebound it will take to win this fall?
No. Unfortunately, now, I think this MOU with Iran, the reopening, we think of the Strait of Hormuz, crude oil is still down. I mean, it's under $70 a barrel now, WTI. That happened at probably the last possible moment to mitigate some of the disastrous outcomes that we could have been seeing in the midterms. Even so, I think a lot of the cake was already baked by the time we got to the MOU.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Democrats going full-on commie is going to necessarily help the Republicans as much as we would like to believe it is this midterm election. So we're back to the first segment again, I guess.
We're so low information that our people, there's all kinds of people that would, the normies certainly, they'd say this. Gas is kind of expensive. I think we give the communists a shot. That doesn't make any sense, but that's an option that they would think is, I might as well go in this direction. It's a flip of a coin to them.
That's dark, yo. That's dark.
What on this show has been light?
That's dark right there. The Alexander House was a lot of light there.
Well, I know, but the point is that even amongst the Christian church, we're living pagan lives. It's just, it's
Mm-hmm.
that level of brutal honesty, which is what I've been saying before. You can't tell the people on the cul-de-sac apart whether they're Christians or not because we don't have a church.
All right, let's get to this next one. Looking ahead to 2028. Gavin Newsom's chances are at an all-time low of being the next president of the United States. 12% are Gavin Newsom's chances in the betting markets as of now.
Fake.
You think that's fake? Go
That's
ahead.
total fake news. And I know you have a theorem that there's no way they're going to nominate a straight white guy, and that
Mhm.
could still be true. But they nominated a straight white guy in Joe Biden who had mashed potatoes for
Yes.
for brains.
Fair.
And he got 80 million votes. 80 million. Count 'em
Most
up.
ever I was reliably
up.
informed.
I mean, a suave, smooth talking prefrontal cortex that actually kind of works, straight right man. That's going to hit like crack to the Democrats under, what I'm just going off of what they say, what I've seen. So there's no way he
Yeah.
only has a 12% chance.
That's the answer right there.
Wow. Todd and Aaron want you guys to enjoy your long 4th of July holiday weekend. And they're here to send you into the right mood. All right? All right, next one. I found it. I picked this one simply because I could not believe this was actually being bet on. Okay? Trump declaring election interference as justification for a national emergency. They think there's a 36% chance that that's going to happen this year. Now, since you're going to ask me, what does that mean, right? You're going to ask me. I believe that they are saying it's for some justification for like martial law, calling off elections, something like that, all right? They think there's a 36% chance that Trump's going to do that. Is that fake news or not?
I'm just gonna try to speak this one into existence. This one fills me with hope. So that's not fake news because this is where the reality of the situation is.
All of a sudden, Todd's like, jingle in July.
They're going.
It is Christmas. Yes.
They want to cheat. They're going to try to cheat. It would be the only reasonable solution to them cheating is by doing such a thing. I like this. The fact that it didn't say 5% this time, I'm heartened by.
So 36% chance Trump goes Franco, and Todd says, I'm listening.
See, I was going to try to make I was going to try to make the same case, but Todd already stole it from me. So I'm just going to, just for sake of argument, say there's no way that happens. There's no way that happens.
Of course,
I think we have to like defy a court order before we go into declaring.
Aaron's right.
Yeah.
Aaron's right. Did you hear Trump on camera today when he was talking about the Supreme Court decision? He says, I disagree with it, but I guess I just have to follow it now.
We have a new question I think candidates are going to have to be asked.
Yeah.
What could a court decree that is so obviously wrong or so obviously immoral that you would not enforce? And, Trump's just from a generation that the courts are thus speaketh Zarathustra, right? And that generation made the decision to take its questions of existential import and hash them out at the courts rather than at the ballot box. It was just it was a decision that both the generation made. Right? Democrats realized that they were going to be it was going to be way more likely to impose this stuff by edict than it was by referendum. And Republicans were basically like, well, we'd rather have the courts fight it out so we don't have to, So
Here's a
the
question.
last generation just decided that the courts were supreme beings and that was the rules of engagement. We're just not going to, we can't afford for those to be the rules of engagement in our generation. So the next generation is going to have to start asking questions like, what could a court possibly, order or rule that is so obviously wrong and so obviously immoral you would not enforce it? What would that be?
Put another way, why can we not tolerate Iran, but we have to tolerate all of this nonsense?
That's another way of putting it. Agreed. All right, next one. Speaking of Iran. All right. When will the Iran deal be finished by? Okay. 46% chance by New Year's Eve, 28% chance by September 30th, 24% chance by August 31st. So everyone's thinking like right around that period of time. 20% chance August 18th, 10% chance August 13th. Why are you laughing at this question?
We didn't have a normal montage today, so you had to get your Iran fix in, right?
Yes, yeah, that's true. I did that. I played myself there. Thank you. Yeah.
because nobody believes within this calendar year that there's even a 50% chance at any point that a deal is actually a deal.
So you think that's fake news is what you're saying?
No, that's not fake news because
Okay.
it's an accurate understanding of it's
I
not
gotcha.
really a deal.
All right. So you think that you
Something
think
this fluid can't be a deal by definition.
Agreed.
I'm trying to decide whether I'd rather negotiate with my almost 5-year-old son, Ben, or the IRGC. That's where I am. I mean, Bella's back at work. She's on the floor now. So she's gone all day. You know, Grammars are watching Ben. I get back and Ben said, hey, I can't wait to go to Scooters to get a lemonade this afternoon. Like, who told you we were going to Scooters to get a lemonade? Mom did. You haven't even talked to Mom today. We're not going to Scooters. First thing he says to Bella when she gets back, hey, we didn't go to Scooters today to get a lemonade. She has no idea what he's talking about. I would rather negotiate with the IRGC. Or maybe I'd rather negotiate with, and that's just to illustrate, I have no idea. These are just funny money numbers. I guess maybe this is what's fun about playing these prediction markets. I don't know, 46% could be 4.6% for who anybody knows. Could be 10%, could be 120%. Who knows? It's just all made up and the points don't matter.
What a great analogy.
Welcome
that
to
is.
Calvin Ball.
Yeah.
That's another good analogy. That's a good pop culture poll by you.
What's Calvin and Hobbes?
I know. That's a good pop culture by you. That was good. All right, next one.
We used to have pop culture worth remembering, Steve.
We did. We were a great country once. That's never meant more than it does after today's Supreme Court ruling. This blew my mind that this was up here too. That's why I had to bring this in. The betting markets are saying there is a 7% chance that an AI will be charged with a crime before next year.
I read
A
that as
7%
Al. I'm like,
chance.
who is Al?
That's Al. There's lots of bad owls out there. Everybody knows this. Yes. 7% chance that an AI. Have you guys seen the new Chris Pratt movie? Well, it came out in January, but it's his most recent movie. Have you seen this?
It's the one where he has to
yes.
save his wife
You have
by
to
Yes.
save his-
arguing
And-
with AI.
Yeah.
And he's an LA cop, and LA has decided the way to really deal with crime in the city once and for all is to have AI proceedings, and they're like instant proceedings. You instantly get in front of the AI, and you've got to get the reasonable doubt. I think it's below 90%.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the AI pronounces your sentencing. The AI judge does. Yeah,
It was decent, yeah.
it wasn't bad actually.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Didn't do great at the box office, but it was enjoyable. Yeah, it wasn't bad. 7% odds AI is getting charged with a crime before next year. Todd?
That's fake news. It's by the next year it'll be
Charging us with crimes.
No, it'll be fully worshipped as a god.
Oh,
You're in a very dark place, and I
I'm
dig
just
that
taking
about you.
everything to its logical conclusion. We're
Mhm.
not either we smash the idols and this is a gigantic idol, or we are going to just worship accordingly.
will it be charged with a crime? So
It's going to charge us.
theoretically, so 93% chance it won't be. So theoretically, if I had $1 million, I could make like $1,000 if I bet no
Yep.
on this.
Yes.
So yeah, this is total fake news. This is for those who maybe are playing for I don't know who. This is the confusing thing about the prediction markets. It's just you can bet on quite literally anything. You can just throw your money away on literally anything.
Like this one, for example.
Yeah, this is not going to
Yes.
happen.
What would be the circumstances by which this would happen? The AI gave me bad real estate advice, job advice, relationship advice.
Misgendered me.
You are in a dark place.
Agentic AI. That's AI where you put it on a computer. You give it complete control over your computer, and it just manipulates the control. You just give it a task. It has a controller. A computer. It does all of the controls, and then it goes kind of off on its own thing.
That seems like a very bad idea. What you just described.
Oh, I can't wait to experiment with it.
That sounds like a very bad idea whose time has come. That's what that sounds like to me. All right, and this last one is for you, Todd. Here are the current betting market odds on what's going to be the highest grossing film of this year. 74% odds, Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out at the end of July. 15% odds Avengers Doomsday coming out at Christmas. 3% odds Super Mario Galaxy that already came out. 3% odds at Toy Story 5 that just came out. 1% odds on The Odyssey that comes out here in a couple of weeks. Fake news or not on these odds, Aaron, for highest grossing movie of the year?
You know what? This is probably the most accurate one yet. I think Spider-Man kind of has its own distinct brand anyway. And so I think it probably has a better chance of being successful than Avengers Doomsday, especially with what we saw from Supergirl. I think there is an overarching sentiment that these cape movies, these superhero movies are played out, but I think Spider-Man is distinct enough. They have a better chance.
What?
Toy Story 5 kind of surprises me.
Yeah, I
Didn't
think
that
the
open?
odds. Yeah, the odds are higher than 3. I'd place a wager on. I still wouldn't predict it, but it's higher than 3% for Toy Story 5 based on the numbers that came out last week. Yeah.
And Ellen Page in The Odyssey. Did you see all of the people over the weekend when it was revealed that she is playing not Achilles, but you guys freaked out over that? She's still playing a male character, isn't she?
What's fascinating?
That's not even in The Odyssey.
Yeah, it's in the Aeneid.
Yeah, the Avengers numbers are a sucker's bet because that movie comes out at Christmas, which means it's only going to count towards 2026 for 1 week. So make sure if you're betting on that, you get some clarification on stuff like that because a lot of its numbers are going to actually be forwarded into 27. But anyway, Todd, what do you think? Other than you hate the question.
The leader looks about right. And if it holds up to its previous iterations, it'll be worthy of it. I mean, that one I won't complain about. If it's as good as the past ones and it wins, I'll be fine with it.
Okay. Those questions in particular, they say anything to you at all? I kind of just took the ones I thought were the most interesting to me, or might put you most on tilt. Right. So that was the only rhyme or reason why those got picked. But overarching themes there, anything stick out to you at all?
Oh,
That's a pretty good articulate thought. I think that was good.
I just
You're in a good place right now.
I have a lot of disdain for.
Just stop right there. I have a lot of
Yeah.
disdain.
I'll stop. All right. Speaking of disdain, why they're never going to stop beating up Caitlyn Clark. We'll get to that on Pop Culture Tuesday in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, Aaron. If someone in this audience got Chef IQ for Father's Day, and they're expected to put out on the grill here for 4th of July weekend, what can they look forward to? Because you are the grill master.
Yeah, I mean this product has been a game changer for me because I'm using my grill, my wood-fired grill, often, especially this time of the year. Just had it out actually over the weekend. Bella got some pork chops, and I'm not talking about those skinny pork chops that you can get. I'm talking about these nice, thick, about a little over an inch thick pork chops. And boy, howdy, you get on the app, you tell it what you're cooking. It tells you how far to put the probe into the cut of meat. Then it estimates how long it's going to take. It tells you what temperature to set your grill at, the estimated temperature. It provides real-time feedback on the internal temperature of the meat. It's just a great way to organize, and I can't say this enough. This is a game changer. You think you're covered with the typical Bluetooth temperature probes that you get, and those things get messy. The Bluetooth cuts out. Not so much on this at all. It's been a game changer for me. It's something that you think, oh man, that's a kind of a luxury. I'll get. No. Don't hold off getting this. This is a perfect product for this time of the year and really year round if you're using your grill a lot like I do.
So if that recommendation was enough for you, how about this? Or maybe it wasn't. So let me throw this in as well. 40% off site-wide right now at chefiq.com using the promo code Steve. 40% off, no more overcooked steaks, no more dried chicken, restaurant-level results at home. You heard Aaron say, hey, we got restaurant levels of cut of pork. And we made restaurant level pork chops back at the house because of Chef IQ. All right, so steak, chicken, burgers, fish. You just heard from Aaron, pork. It handles all of it. Works on the grill, the oven, smoker, whatever you're using. Go to chefiq.com. Use the promo code Steve for 40% off with the promo code Steve at chefiq.com. So, Pop Culture Tuesday. And I saw a lady, well-meaning, and I would say she's kind of in the Jennifer Say camp. Who's the female comedian? It's Brittany something, I want to say. People who, Jillian Michaels, I put in this camp. People who thought they were patriotic liberals. And then when the nihilistic Democratic Party came along and said, if you literally don't believe men can become women, then you're just, you might as well be a Hitler, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they are reevaluating and reassessing how did we get where we are in the culture and doing what they can to push back on it. That group of folks, fair description.
Yeah.
And one of them, she's got a pretty staunch following, has over 100,000 followers on X, so that's a pretty significant following. She was posting the video last week of Caitlyn Clark getting throat punched at the bottom of a pile at the WNBA. And for that throat punch, the woman who did it to her got a 1-game suspension. That's it. That's all. And I believe, I'd ask you guys to correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you would know the answer. But I believe that only happened because of the outrage over it. That happened like the next day, I want to say. That it wasn't like, the league handed this down. There was a bunch of outrage about this, and then the next day the league, that's what the league did, was a 1-game suspension for a throat punch to its most marketable player. Now, she asked, I think, a very good question. How much longer is the WNBA going to allow this kind of behavior to their star player? And the day after this latest incident with Caitlyn, it also came out now that her and Sophie Cunningham, her teammate, I think they're teammates, right? They're on the Indiana team, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Her and Sophie Cunningham, who might have authored the all-time meme with that finger point. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you see the reverse angle of it, it's even more potent because she keeps it going the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time the woman she's pointing at is like losing her mind, screaming, yelling, like Scott Wiener in that video in the montage yesterday, and she just continues just pointing at her the whole time. Well, Sophie Cunningham and Caitlyn Clark make up 71% of all jersey sales in the WNBA. Those two players do. Straight and white. And that's important. Because the answer to this woman's question about when is the WNBA going to step in and stop this, the answer is a one-word answer. Never. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Now let me explain why. The league is a construct. It's a construct. It was created by the WNBA out of political correctness, had never really developed any market at all. It had never, prior to Caitlyn Clark's arrival, ever been profitable as a venture. It was kind of a laughing stock. No one paid really any attention to it. It was essentially a hub for mostly lesbians to pretend to be professional athletes. That's essentially what it was. What was the Babylon Bee headline last year? Caitlyn Clark realizes playing in the WNBA feels a lot like getting assaulted by large black lesbians. Wasn't that the headline?
Something like
that. That's basically what it was. It just wasn't taken seriously at all. It was there as a construct of desires and instincts and emotions. But it was there for the flannel shirt brigade. Little Caitlyn Clark, though, was clearly taking this seriously and viewed this as, maybe these players were her heroes and she couldn't wait to go. She had another year of eligibility she could have used in college, made a crap ton of money with it. But she had to get to the WNBA, be the face of the league. The problem is she committed the crime of being the face of the league while being white and straight. And the other mistake that she's made is she has tried to basically seeker-sensitive pastor her way out of this. She has tried every which way, other than just literally saying the words, to say, I'm not like those other straight white Christian people that you may know. I'm not like them. Yeah, I went to Dowling, but it wasn't really a thing. That's the big Catholic school in Iowa. Let's just say it didn't take. I just went there for sports. Yeah, I'm white. Yeah, I'm straight. Yeah, I like guys, but I really desperately want your approval. She desperately wants the approval of the people and the forces assaulting her. She desperately wants it. She's done everything she could to get it, except the one thing she's not willing to do. Now, I mentioned that Scott Wiener clip you had yesterday, Aaron, right? And that whole thing was because a guy who has basically done everything he can to let off perverts, creeps, and pedophiles also is not anti-Israel. And so because of that, it's 100% or nothing on the other side. You're not allowed any distinctions at all. Caitlyn Clark has not done the one thing that is demanded of her. A lesbian wedding at halftime of the next game. She won't fully assimilate. But then she won't stand up for herself and against the league either, because she wants its approval. So she's constructed this, or concocted might be a better word, this middle third ground. She's the Tim Keller, Joel Osteen, Rick Warren, Bill Hybels, J.D. Greer, or as Todd would say, an entire generation of boomer priests. That's kind of your thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is the manifestation of this in a women's sports construct. She desperately wants the acceptance of forces that will never grant it. Because she won't do the one thing that they demand more than everything else. A complete and total repudiation of who she is and what she thinks and what she believes. She won't do that. And that's the only acceptance that's acceptable. That's the only sacrifice that will be taken. That's the only atonement in the spirit of the age religion that satiates the wrath of the spirit of the age. No half measures. No 90% measures. It's 100% or nothing. And she desperately wants it to see, I'm not like Todd Erzin and Steve Deace. I'm not like Todd Erzin, who Dowling wasn't Catholic enough for his kids, so he sent him to the Protestant school instead. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I want your approval. I want you to like me. I'd rather hang with you than hang with the Erzins and the Deaces and the McIntyres and all such ne'er-do-wells that listen to shows like this. See, she won't do the full David French. She won't give over every last morsel of her own soul. That's the cost. And see, even when you do it, though, George Conway did that. Blew up his marriage, his family. Blew it all up for the spirit of the age. Tried to run for Congress last week. Did you see what he got in the primary?
No.
6% more than you. Blew up his family, his associations, his reputation, did it all, and only get 6% of the vote of the people whose approval he did it for. And that's, in a way, that sounds retarded. And that's what Caitlyn Clark is doing. It's very retarded. She is being assaulted by the very forces whose approval she desires. But they're never going to grant it to her unless she goes full David French. She has to become there's no third way. Never was. You either become a heretic or you're just a Nazi just like me, Caitlyn. There's no third way. There never was. There's no clever way to do this. This isn't even Tiger Woods, where the white golfers are at the end. They're like, dude, our purses are going way up. Who cares if he's kicking our ass every Sunday in the final round? We're all getting richer. They don't care. This is evangelistic. They have a level of zeal we don't have. Todd wants you to smash all the idols. They smashed everything that was holy for their idol. Her raising the overall value of the league won't be enough. What good does it generate a profit? What profit can do you good when you've already sold your own soul? They've done the thing. They're given over to their own depraved minds. The more successful she is, the more obvious it is that she's successful, the more violent they're going to lash out and the worse it will get. Not only will the WNBA not step in and stop it, it will de facto endorse it first. until she does the full David French and turns completely against people like the very Iowa fans in her home state that made her a thing in the first place to the rest of the world. Until she does the full David French, you have to give your soul over. The spirit of the age is a jealous God, and it will not share its glory with another. So there's no third way. There's no amount of success or profit that will satiate any of this. And in fact, the more successful she is, the more the league profits, the more angry and bitter these harpies will become. Because it's a reminder they're a DEI retard league that no one cared about until the straight white girl showed up that was really good. And so they hate her all the more for it. So in the end, Caitlyn has the same choice we've all had since the book of Joshua. Choose ye this day. But there is no third way, and there never was. You either become an acolyte for the spirit of the age, or you're just another Nazi. And the only good Nazi to these people is a dead one. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
It's all true, I think, and obviously so. The follow-up and the obvious follow-up questions is then every other sports league that was not designed around this cause yet is voluntarily getting on anyways, where are they on that assembly line? Because the NFL, even the mighty NFL, willingly gets on this assembly line. The average NFL player within that construct is in the position of Caitlyn Clark, trying to do the third way. I'm not really gay. I just love football, and I'll look the other way. I mean, it's not just he's right about everything in his diagnosis, but this is not just a WNBA problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the NFL is willingly getting on board for this. It has no reason to, like the WNBA does. And Steve's right. It's reason for existing. So that should beg some questions. Does the spirit of the age even have a deeper hold, since there's no other reason for it to do so on the NFL than even the WNBA? And we are looking at a future where this is going to happen to your average football fan.
Oh, I'll go even further than you just did, if you can believe that. I mean, the example set by the baseball players this month alone. A handful of, I mean, listen, if you're on a major league roster, you're really good. But we're not talking like there were no Cy Young winners here. There's no MVPs in this group of players, right? Okay.
Not that I'm not aware.
Yeah,
of,
just
no,
these are again, they're the best in the world, but they're just among the best in the world, right? And look at the havoc that they were able to wreak. So I would argue there's even more of a responsibility in these sports, not just for the reasons that you're laying out, but the fact that because of the reasons that you're saying are true, and we have a precedent-setting example in Major League Baseball, what happens now when even a handful of guys step up and speak out, that there's just no excuse for going along with this like on any level whatsoever. Just none.
But the opposite
completely
is,
agree.
But
completely agree with what you just said.
So say that I go to McDonald's for lunch today. I go up to the counter. If there's somebody actually working the counter, I order my double quarter pounder, no bun, large. And I go to pay. I pull out my wallet, and I pull out 20 Tunisian dinars. How are they going to look at me? They're going to look at me like I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? That's what never heard of a Tunisian dinar. Never heard of that before. What are you doing? We don't take that here. That's what Caitlyn Clark is trying to do with excellence in the NBA. She's trying to spend a currency they don't really know anything about.
Yep.
She thought that her excellence, her meritocracy would win the day, would carry her the way through her career in the WNBA, and that is not something that they actually respond to. The currency they deal in is intersectionality.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very devoid of that currency because she's straight and white. That's the real story of what's happening here. And unless things change in the hearts and mind of the however many hundreds of WNBA players, rosters, front officers, that's not going to change anytime soon. Do you think that's going to be happening? At least from what we can see with our own human eyes. Maybe God is working in the WNBA. Who knows? I don't see that happening anytime soon. She's spending a currency they have never heard of and don't respect and will not honor.
That's a great analogy. And that happens, by the way, when you're two totally distinctively different cultures. You're just fundamentally two different civilizations. That's why you have fundamentally different currencies. That is very well said, Aaron. You still down?
Let me
defend Todd a little bit.
I'm honest. That's what I am.
Todd's family was at the forefront of pushing back on the trannies and women's sports thing, because we launched that pretty much here in the state of Iowa, even before Riley Gaines came forward. And we all love Riley, okay? So after 5 years of leading in that battle, to only get to celebrate it for 30 minutes while the Supreme Court turned around and said we don't have a country or a border.
Yeah.
I think we can all justify your surliness today.
Got a lot of problems with you people.
Go hard. Romans 8:28.